All right, Laura, how are you? How's your day been?
It's been good, actually. Did you get to do anything for Halloween?
Honestly, only like 5 kids showed up. I was just relaxing at home. I was like, you know what, I'll take the day off. But 5 kids showed up. So I was like, I was hoping they're either all watching the Jays game
Yeah,
or
that's
like I didn't
right,
know what
right?
was happening. Right. What about you?
No, just same thing. We didn't get any kids, but I
Yeah.
ended up watching The Exorcist.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it was a good
Okay.
it
Yeah,
was a good
exactly.
movie for
Yeah.
last night.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Okay, so I just want to say welcome back, everyone, to Moony Talks, the number one podcast in the world, according to my mom, where we dive into dentistry, health, and everything in between. If you're new here, hit the follow so you don't miss new episodes every week. And if you've been following for a while, thank you. And share this with one classmate or colleague who cares about the community in dentistry. Let's jump in. Today's guest has done it all: clinician, educator, public health advocate, and the academic coordinator of the dental hygiene program at Fanshawe College. She's also the chairperson of the London Community Dental Alliance, the organization that has helped London's first community-based dental clinic, the Wright Clinic, which is so dear to my heart. Please welcome Laura Timlin. I just wanted to
Great.
make sure I give you your kudos so people know a little bit
Well,
more
thanks, Moony.
about
That
you.
was very kind of you. Yeah.
Absolutely. So,
Wonderful.
Laura, before we jump into everything, how I imagine right now you're pretty knee deep into marketing. Like it's not just me that's busy with school.
Yes, exactly. So,
Yeah.
yeah, so certainly at Fanshawe, the same as all of you folks at Western in the dental school, it's like, just past midterms and now it's assignments and grading and all that fun stuff. So,
Yeah.
yeah, it's an exciting time of year, that's for sure.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And before we get into all the right clinic stuff, I want to learn a little bit more about you. Could you give us a little bit of a background on like who you are, what you do, why you chose dentistry, the field of dentistry, hygiene, all of that? Let's rewind a bit. Why dentistry, specifically dental hygiene? Was there a moment that sparked it for you?
So interestingly, I fell into dental hygiene kind of by accident. So for all of you out there that, maybe dentistry or dental hygiene maybe wasn't your first pick, don't worry, because it certainly actually wasn't mine. So I
Uh-huh.
started out studying women's studies and philosophy at Western, and I did my undergrad. And I kind of didn't know what to do after that. I was thinking I'd do a master's and study critical theory in German, and that didn't pan out, obviously. So I worked for a little while, and as a mature student, I was kind of like, well, I really have to pay bills. So
Hmm.
what can I take that's perhaps 2 years? I knew I wanted to be in healthcare at some capacity. And so basically, I was at the Fanshawe College website and I was looking at programs in the School of Health Sciences. And I thought, oh, dental hygiene, maybe that's a good career move. And interestingly, like many folks during my kind of, formative years, I actually didn't see a dental professional. So
Yeah.
I didn't actually have access to dental benefits from like 18. I was about 26 at the time. And I actually hadn't been to the dental office in that entire time and still decided to take dental hygiene, which is a little
Hmm.
strange.
Yeah.
But so yeah, so I ended up trying to apply, and I thought, oh, I graduated the top of my class. I was a gold
Hmm.
medal winner at Western,
Wow.
but I didn't have any sciences and I
Yeah.
didn't have math. So I ended
Yeah.
up going back to Weeble adult education, and I did actually adult high school for a year to get some of those grades in biology and chemistry and math and all of those things. And then I ended up applying at Fanshawe, not realizing that the acceptance rate was so low and that my chances
Yeah.
were probably
Oh yeah.
pretty low getting in. And so I only applied to Fanshawe, and I applied to that one program, and I was lucky enough to get in. Uh,
Yeah.
and so I did the 2-year program. It's now a 3-year advanced diploma, and I loved every minute of it. I
Yeah.
had met, amazing faculty who are my mentors and friends and colleagues now,
Yeah.
and really was inspired in terms of kind of bridging my experience with, arts, with science, and kind of bridging that kind of piece of things. And then from there, I ended up working in private practice.
Hmm.
And I was lucky enough to work with an amazing dentist who was very kind and understanding of a new grad. And I ended up working, his practice primarily serves older adults and seniors. And I loved working with older adults in particular.
Yeah.
I know some people like really love pedo and some people like
Yeah.
working in ortho, but older adults are like my jam. Love working with older adults. And so he had a satellite office actually in his practice where he had his family practice and then a satellite office in a long-term care home. And so I, after getting about a year of experience under my belt as a dental hygienist, he's like, why don't you work over there at the satellite office and you can do recares and perio scales and things like
Wow.
that. Well,
Yeah.
he was with everybody else at his family practice across the street. So it was an amazing experience. And I realized like how little I knew. So it was a lot
Yeah.
of learning on my part in terms of
Yeah.
the complexity of older adults, learning how to work with people with dementia, a lot of things that, perhaps we didn't necessarily get exposure to that
Of
degree
course.
when you're in
Yeah.
school, right? So I learned a lot, and working with him and working in a long-term care home, it really made me realize that this population in particular needs a lot more care and a lot
Yeah.
more attention. And so it really kind of sparked this idea that, the two of us and the whole team at that practice, we were kind of just putting out fires. So oftentimes by
Mhm.
the time
Mhm.
older adults get into a long-term care home, their oral health is already quite poor, right? So thinking about from a preventive lens, well, what can we do to actually meet that root cause? And so I realized I had to go back to school to
Yeah.
learn.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I ended up doing a Bachelor of Education through Brock University,
Yeah.
started teaching at Fanshawe part-time, and then I really wanted to do a Master of Public Health because I
Yeah.
thought, with all of the social problems and, issues in oral health care, that would probably provide me with a basis of trying to figure out how to come up with solutions, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I ended up doing a Master of Public Health at the University of Waterloo, and that was an amazing experience. I started working full-time at Fanshawe, but then part-time at Southwestern Public Health. So I would do my summers at Southwestern Public Health doing
Yeah.
clinical work and projects and all sorts of stuff, and learned a lot as well. And yeah, and so I ended up getting involved with a number of different community groups. So London Community Dental Alliance, of course, but I'm also
Yeah.
involved with the Ontario Dental Hygienists Association, the Long-Term Care Advisory Committee.
Yeah.
And then I'm also involved with a big shout out to all my colleagues and friends with the Canadian Society for Disability and Oral Health,
Yes. Yes.
which I'm
Yes.
sure you're familiar with.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, so that group, and actually in the LCDA are actually quite connected.
Yeah.
But with the Canadian Society for Disability and Oral Health, we again do a lot of support for students in particular. So just a shout
Mhm.
out as a sidebar that student
Yeah.
membership is free. And we
Yeah.
do a lot of really exciting events with that as well.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, and by the way, for those of you who haven't heard of those organizations, just please look into it. I remember my first exposure, for example, with some of them was through the, Special Olympics, and I was like
Yes.
and we didn't have that many people that particular year or this particular year, but it was still so awesome getting to meet everybody and learning about all the different things and how
Yeah.
you could get involved even as a student, which, by the way, we always think we can't do anything until, like, we're in 3rd year and 4th year. So it's nice that like there's still ways to get involved, especially at our early preclinical years, 1st year, 2nd year. So please reach out, look more into those organizations because like Laura's busy. So if she's choosing to allocate her time to these places, it's really because it's such awesome places to get involved in. So can't recommend it more. But where I want to pick up on one thing you
Yes.
said, and it's more about like so you worked both in clinical and academic spaces for different periods of time.
Yeah.
So, like, and I know me personally, like, dental public health and coming back to teach is 100% a goal of mine in the future. Like, I think I have to.
Yeah.
But then obviously you hear in dental school, like, you're definitely not going to get paid as much and it's a lot harder and it's more stress. But the fulfillment and the reward, I believe 100% is there. So,
Yeah.
like, what keeps you passionate about this field after all these years and so remaining in academia and both clinically as well? Like, what's keeping you ingrained? What initially told you, you know what, I need to go back and teach when probably there was a time in your life when you were like, I'm never going to come back to this school again. I've already done enough, right?
Well, yeah, exactly. I think coming back to teach was certainly, for me because I had a lot of support and mentorships with my faculty,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
And so these are the folks that I teach with today that continue to inspire me. So I had a lot of support in terms of that. So I always had a connection to Fanshawe, and when I
Mhm.
come to work, when I come to the college, it feels like home to me. And so it's a really amazing feeling. But
Yeah.
the second thing I think for those of us that do work in academia, and it sounds like Moony, like that whole idea is that
Yeah.
what inspires me every day are the students.
Yeah.
I'm as a academic, like I'm not going to solve the world's problems, but my
Yeah.
students will. And I
Absolutely.
think it's
Absolutely.
it's that perspective that, giving students learning opportunities, whether it's through actual curriculum or whether it's through outside things like CSDH and Special
Mhm.
Olympics, that we can really kind of come together as a community and just seeing the passion and excitement that our students have and what they bring to the profession, I think is really exciting for me.
Yeah.
And that's what keeps me going
100%.
for sure.
Yeah, yeah, no, makes sense, and I imagine that's keeping a lot of the admin going, especially during busy times like this when we're
Yeah.
spamming them with emails and all of
Yes.
this good stuff. So now another thing that really excites me is the Wright Clinic,
Yes.
and it's for listeners who aren't familiar maybe, what exactly is the Wright Clinic and how did it come to be?
Great question. So, as you mentioned earlier, Moony, so the Wright Clinic is London, Ontario's first and only community based dental clinic. And we kind of have an interesting kind of story. So, I will first kind of explain. So, the Wright Clinic
Mhm.
is the name for the clinic. And of course, it's named in honor of a very well renowned, very well respected community member, Dr. Ken Wright, who he taught at Western for 40 plus years. He's a periodontist and, of course, retired now, but keeps himself actually probably more busy
Yeah,
doing his volunteer work than when he was
yeah.
actually in clinical practice and teaching. So, Dr. Wright's kind of legacy, as well as Jean Wright, the two of them, because they really are an amazing pair, they've done
Mhm.
so much, not just for dentistry, but actually for all of London. And so basically, Dr. Wright, he is a graduate from McGill Dentistry. So he did his dental training at McGill, and then he did his periodontal specialty at University of Toronto. I'm pretty sure it was the U of T.
Yeah.
And so basically at McGill, he really kind of saw that they had a dental outreach program for the students to really provide that expertise and engagement with maybe groups that didn't traditionally access dental care, right?
Mhm.
So we're taking
Mhm.
a look at people experiencing barriers. So, generally financial barriers, no dental insurance, maybe substance use, housing insecurity, all of those different things. And so he wanted to bring that to London. And
Yeah.
so the first iteration of the Wright Clinic was actually the Dental Outreach Community Service Program. So I'm sure you've heard of
Yeah.
DOCS, right, at
Yeah, of
Western,
course. Yeah.
because DOCS, of course, has had a quite a long kind of history at Western. And the DOCS program, I can't remember the exact date. I know I got involved with DOCS as a volunteer, as a clinician, and met Dr. Wright around 2010, 2011. And so I was volunteering as a dental hygienist with the program. And with the DOCS program, it was affiliated with the university. So faculty and students would basically set up mobile dental equipment. There would be a big white Western truck that would show up with all of this equipment in the back, and we would
Yeah.
all work together, dental hygienists, dental assistants, dental students, dental hygiene students, and we would set everything up, and we would actually provide dental care in community centers and gymnasiums. And so we had a number of different community sites around the city. So we did that for a number of years, and it was around probably, I'm thinking around 2018-ish. I think Dr. Wright in particular really saw that this program was just scratching the surface, because we really just
Yeah.
had kind of like 8 dates throughout the school year. That person that would come in, they would get their free treatment, but it was a little bit difficult to really support folks on their journey towards oral health care, because it was kind of like a one-off. It wasn't creating a dental home, right? And we
Of
all know
course,
the
of course.
importance of having that connection with clinicians and having that support network. And so while it was a very successful program and it gave us some really great experience getting out into the community and that idea of meeting people where they are,
Yeah.
there were certainly limitations, right?
Yeah.
So, concurrently around that time, so when I started teaching full time at Fanshawe, in doing the community program and getting our students out into the community, I came to the understanding as well that like we really need a standalone clinic, because when
Yeah.
I was working with some folks either at Linden Community Health Center or my sister's place, which is the women's shelter downtown on Dundas Street, there was really nowhere to send people. There was nowhere for people to go aside from hospital. And that's not a good utilization of
Not at all.
resources, right? We
No.
all know that. And it's not helping anybody. So, I was working with Greg Nash at the time, and Greg Nash he's a director at London Intercommunity Health Center. And Greg and I met I think it's around 2013. And there was
Mhm.
this different group in London. We didn't have a name, but we were basically kind of thinking about this idea of a dental clinic.
Yeah.
And, it didn't actually pan out. And one of the reasons why, I think, is because Dr. Wright wasn't involved at that time.
Yeah.
He's kind of the key ingredient. So
Yeah.
that kind of fizzled out, but there was still this acknowledgement and understanding that we really needed a standalone clinic. So fast forward to about 2017, so about 4 or 5 years later, and Dr. Wright had kind of brought a group of us together. Greg Nash was also in this meeting as a director at the health center. And a representative from Middlesex London Health Unit, myself, Dr. Harvey Goldberg, Dr.
Uh,
Penny Thornton. So Dr. Penny Thornton was a huge advocate. She worked a lot in the docs program, and she's a general practitioner here in London. Just amazing. And so she was part of this initial conversation as well. And we were really thinking about, okay, we need this standalone dental clinic to, again, this idea that we needed to get students involved, we needed Western involved, we needed Fanshawe involved. We also needed to support these community health centers or community neighborhood centers that we have, like Crouch in Hamilton Road, Glen, Caron, all of these different groups. But how do we actually get a clinic up and going? And so we basically started and we named ourselves the London Community Dental Alliance. And I believe we held
mhm.
our first official board meeting. I think it was November of 2018. And so then we became an official board and registered all of our paperwork, became a registered charity with the government, and did all the official things. And then Dr. Wright in particular went out and looked for funds, right? So fundraising. So it's been a really amazing learning experience for myself being involved right from the get-go to see what you can, when you start with nothing, but you just start with a
Yeah,
group of people that are really passionate about doing something for the community, and how we can actually come together and leverage our collective strength to raise money and to actually go from this kind of idea to an actual standalone clinic that's functioning and serving over 1,000 people right now on a yearly basis.
insane.
It's really incredible. And so Dr. Wright and Jean in particular, so basically Dr. Wright has this ability that when he asks for funds and money, people just can't say no to him, right? He's just like so
Okay.
kind and so humble and so generous.
Yeah,
And so we were able to raise quite a bit of money through a number of different grants and fundraising opportunities. And I just wanted to name a couple.
yeah,
So London Community Foundation in particular,
yeah.
they have been constant supporters of the clinic. And so they were able to provide us with initial, I think it was over $200,000. It was one of their
Wow.
largest donations through there. I think it was an
Yeah,
innovation stream to
yeah,
really help start our fundraising goal, because we knew that we needed probably about 500,000 in order to
yeah,
start building a clinic. We all know that dentistry is very expensive.
yeah, yeah.
So they gave us our initial kind of big donation. The
Mhm.
City of London was very, very generous, especially right from the get-go. So they also provided about $10,000, again, to help with capital funding. And then from there, it was, Dr. Wright knocking on doors. And we received generous donations over the years from Canada Life. Green Shield Canada, in particular, has done amazing things for the clinic.
Yeah,
Eventually, and I'm leaving a lot of people out, Sifton Family
yeah, yeah, of
Foundation,
course,
Lawson
of
Family
course.
Foundation. So again, we were really, really supported in the community with fundraising. And so we basically decided that we found a location, and that was also a challenge, like just finding
Yeah,
a clinical
yeah,
space.
yeah,
So we knew
exactly.
we wanted it to be where the people are, right? So if we think
Yeah.
about a lot of the marginalized, I don't like using that word, but
Mhm,
equity
mhm.
deserving groups in
Yeah,
our particular community, we were taking a look at probably somewhere along, Adelaide and Dundas kind of area.
yeah,
So we were looking at Dr. Wright was really looking for space. And so we found that friends of ours at Glen Cairn Community Resource Center,
yep,
they had quite a bit of space and had some empty office space on the second floor of their building. And so that's where we actually ended up settling, because again, we really wanted to have a model that was integrated care. So integrated with, having access to food security programs and all the
yeah,
amazing programs that Glen Cairn provides. We thought that it would be really great if we were actually co-located on site. And I can share a little bit of
yeah,
the work that we do with Glen Cairn because it's incredibly important.
yeah,
So we found the space, and then we started, we had the fundraising. So we ended up getting, a plan in place, and um, we were planning to start construction. I believe it was March 2020. And we can probably all remember that date because that was the
yeah,
date where the pandemic had been declared. I think it was the 17th
yeah,
or the 19th.
yeah.
So it actually ended up happening the same day that we were supposed to break ground for construction.
Oh my gosh.
which was in retrospect actually a very good thing because we're
Okay.
all glad now that we didn't start construction because
Yeah.
the concept for the clinic was a little bit different than what it is now. So, Moony, you've been
Mhm.
to the clinic and you can see we've
Yeah.
got closed operatories, we've got
Yeah.
doors that closed. Now we have enhanced HVAC as well.
Yeah.
So, we
Yeah.
were actually able to incorporate a lot of those public health recommendations at the time
Yeah.
into the clinic because before it was very open concept. So,
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
retrospect, it's actually a very good thing.
Perfect. Amazing.
So
Yeah.
we were able to, with a few modifications, we were able to eventually start construction once things opened up again. And the clinics opened and started serving clients. We had a soft open February of 2021. And then we weren't able to have a grand opening, but we really started
Yeah.
seeing more and more clients starting that spring of 2021.
Yeah.
That's kind
Yeah.
of the journey of how we got
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
And I think, when I think about, what really helped our group as a LCDA and the London Community Dental Alliance is the fact that we're not just dental folks. So we've got people on the board that Sheila Simpson in particular, she's not on our board anymore, but I do want to give a shout out to Sheila. So
Mhm.
Sheila's an incredible person in the not-for-profit community, and she
Yeah.
does a lot of grant writing and fundraising. So she's kind of the expert in our community in terms of how to apply for grants and do fundraising. And she worked with the Trillium Foundation for many years. So she was kind of like our in about, oh, we can apply for this grant, we can apply for that
Yeah.
grant. And she still does quite a bit of work for us behind the scenes. So thank you,
Yeah.
Sheila. And then, certainly Greg's experience with the London Community Health Center. So the health center has been an incredible partner for us. They, again, because we see a lot of the clientele that they also support, it's been a really great relationship, being able to provide, specific training to our staff in terms of harm reduction and substance use and all of those kinds of things. So that's been an incredible partnership. And of course, Middlesex London Health Unit. So, we've got great support that way. And of course, with Western and Fanshawe, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
having this model where it's definitely the dental community that has been the incredible supporters of the clinic over the years. But then we also have leveraging of support from, the health and the social service community as well, and as well as public health. And I think
Yeah.
that really is one of the reasons why the clinic has been so successful, right? Is that we're really leveraging that support from the community, which is amazing.
Yeah, absolutely, and by the way, 4 years old? Are you kidding me? If you guys have seen the Wright Clinic, like, if you haven't seen it, please come because it's such a well-oiled machine. I had no idea it was 4 years old or 4 to 5, like, that's insane because it is so, like, when you go in there, first of all, it feels like home immediately.
Yes.
You're greeted with a huge big smile or laugh, and then the clinic is so beautiful on the inside, and it really looks like a well-oiled machine. So to get that all under wraps within, like, less than half a decade or within half a decade is insane.
Yeah.
And, like, yeah,
Yeah, and
yeah,
one
I
of
can
the
only
things that we kind of really wanted to, when we were kind of talking about the clinic and what we wanted, is that we wanted a space that obviously, as you said, Mooney, is really welcoming and kind.
yeah,
And this our amazing staff, that they are the reason why that feeling
yeah,
is there. But just from a construction and building like side of things, the nice thing about that space is that there's lots of windows, it's really bright.
yeah,
When we take a look at like how the clinic was constructed, we really wanted a space that when people come in, again, we're really serving that population that hasn't historically had access to dental care. So we wanted
yeah,
people to feel like they matter and we value them and that everybody, right, has the right for optimal oral health care. And
yeah,
that when they come into the clinic, it's very professional and we have state-of-the-art equipment, and everything is like top-notch, top of the line.
yeah, yeah,
Because again, we really want folks to feel like they matter and they value to our community, right? But definitely that welcoming feeling, I would say, is that's our staff.
yeah,
So
yeah, yeah,
Teresa and Steph and Emma and Jen. So that whole team is just like incredible. And then of course we've got our amazing team of clinicians. So Donna and
mhm,
Mary, who are our registered dental hygienists at the clinic, and our amazing team of dentists led by Dr. Ali, who I know you know.
yeah,
So, we're really taking a look at, and our volunteers, right? We have an
yeah,
amazing group of volunteers that take time out of their practice to come and volunteer at the clinic. And we've got some amazing volunteers. So,
yeah,
Dr. Manny Friedman, for example, he's like
yeah,
one of the top endodontists in, Southwestern Ontario.
yeah,
Dr. Jackson, who's a periodontist, I'm going to name drop a couple of people.
Yeah,
not
yeah.
everyone, of course, but Dr. Jackson's a periodontist, and he's just recently agreed to provide support. Dr. Matt Morrison, who is a oral surgeon in town, again, providing amazing support. Dr. Jamami. There's Dr. Frank Ferreira. He has like really helped our clinic from the get-go. Like, I can't even tell you the number of hours. He's retired, but he literally like works at the clinic for free on Thursdays and
Yeah,
Fridays and helps out with
yeah.
students. So it's just incredible. And I'm forgetting a lot of people, but I'm
Yeah, yeah.
just to get a sense of the incredible support that we have in the community is amazing.
Absolutely, and I know people watching and listening will hear, like, at least 2 of those names and recognize them, and will have no idea that these are huge, amazing people and so heavily involved in this
Yeah.
clinic, and I also wanna talk about the work with Glen Caron, but before that, I wanna talk about something that has also kind of pulled into the different aspects of the Western Fanshawe and all the different communities. Dr. Friedman, we had
Dr. Olaf is
Dr.
amazing.
Ali, literally everybody. Yeah, Dr. Olaf had quite a big role, as well as honestly, and I think part of the most like the one of the most wholesome things about this whole experience, and we'll get into it right now, was it also featured a patient who had
Mhm.
truly been through, like, just the most in her life and was brought like, was came to the Wright Clinic and found a home there and was able to contribute. So let's talk about the Ironstone Impact Project. Tell me a
Absolutely.
little bit about more about what we did with that project and how we kinda leveraged on all the different community partners to come up with this awesome video that we're gonna be rolling out soon here.
Well, so Mooney, so we have to thank you, of course, because you kind of
Yeah,
spearheaded this whole project. And so it's actually, so Teresa's our clinic manager, and she
yeah,
saw this opportunity, this Ironstone Impact lip sync contest. And as soon as she saw it, she's like, "Oh, Lara, like, I think we should do this." And I'm like, "Yeah, we should totally
yeah,
do this." And she's like, "I know the perfect person to approach." And so, of course, she approached you, Mooney, in terms of trying to get our kind of communities together, and certainly with your expertise with social media and video and audio and all of those things.
yeah,
So basically, yeah. So in terms of this particular competition, it's a lip sync video, and the whole idea is to produce a video where it really showcases the spirit of a charity here in London.
yeah,
And so basically, you kind of took the lead, and I also had a couple of my students at Fanshawe, so Melanie and Suzanne in particular, and then you also had a number of your colleagues as well
yeah, yeah,
at Western that helped in terms of the planning. Dr. Lee was heavily involved as well.
yeah,
And so basically, all of you came up with the concept,
yeah,
and
yeah,
we kind of voted on some video or some songs. And then you, of course, kind of meshed everything together in terms
yeah,
of the
yeah,
concept. So I was just a bystander, really.
yeah,
And it was
yeah,
amazing to watch all of you kind of collaborate and come up with these amazing ideas for this
yeah, yeah,
video. And so, yeah, so we just wrapped up filming, was it 2 weeks ago now or three
yeah,
weeks ago, I
exactly, on
think?
the weekend, yeah,
And it was a weekend. And so it was a Saturday, and there was great representation. So your colleagues and friends from Fanshawe, you, of course, as director, we had an amazing
yeah,
videographer.
yeah,
And then, definitely volunteers from my Fanshawe crew. And then some community members and dentists from the community that
yeah,
came. So Dr. Clive Friedman and Dr. Manny Friedman,
yeah,
played in a really important role. And
yeah,
Dr. Ali, and then, of course, Dr. Olaf
yeah,
Plotske, who
yeah.
kind of took the shining role
My
in our
gosh,
whole
did he
video.
ever.
That was really amazing. I knew he'd be the
Yeah,
perfect person for that. And then, of course, Dr. Hockley, right? So
yeah,
Dr.
yeah,
Kevin Hockley
absolutely.
from Western as well volunteered and contributed his time. So, yeah, so we all had that
Yeah,
amazing day on Saturday. And I couldn't believe, even Dr. Ali and I were talking, and we couldn't believe like how you guys went from this concept to actually like implementing it in a
yeah,
very short period of time,
yeah.
utilizing how many people? Like
Oh
30
my gosh.
plus people in the
Felt
clinic.
like a million. It
It
felt
felt like
like
a
a million.
million, and
Yeah,
everyone
yeah,
just, participated and played their role, and
yeah,
we ended up with an amazing final product so that,
yeah,
we can't wait to share with the wider community.
yeah, yeah, and just so people listening know, like, Teresa reached out to me about this idea, like, on DM, and it was so or I forget if it was on DM or email, and I remember being like, "Oh my gosh, like, this is amazing," because our class, specifically me and another dental student, Dreedy, in my class, had been talking, "Oh my gosh, we need to do a lip dub. It would be so funny to do a lip dub in the school, run around the school." We're like, "How are we gonna convince the school to do a lip dub?" And, like, how are we gonna convince everyone to come out and do a lift up? And then all of a sudden, Teresa comes with this golden egg idea of, "Hey, do you wanna do a lift up for, the Ironstone Impact Project to, like for a chance to bring some great support to the clinic, the Wright Clinic?" And I'm like, "Of course." And the only thing I had experience with the Wright Clinic to that point was with the ODA Cup, the Western hockey team.
Yes.
So the Western obviously supports all donations and proceeds from Western goes to the, Wright Clinic, whereas
Which are
UFT
incredible.
has. Yeah,
Which are
absolutely.
incredible
The Mighty Dents, honestly, they outdo themselves, like, every year,
every year.
and we brought one of the best things also is that we won last year against UFT. UFT also has, like, an equally, like, amazing, um project that they donate to the Noma Action Group, and it's just like a really wholesome event. But
Yes.
the competition is definitely there. But anyways, that's where I kind of learned about the Wright Clinic for the first time, and so I was like, absolutely, we're so game. I talked to a few different students in the class, and of course, Ethan, my sister, my younger sister, User, and then Tannen was already heavily
Shannon,
involved in the
yes.
clinic. Davleen ended up showing up on the day of, and by the way, that was after like a long week, and then our Saturday morning sim session, and then the weekend before that we had planned it all, and like but still it was like honestly I remember this underlying feeling of like, okay, we just planned it, there's still some gray area in here, is this really gonna work or is this gonna be crazy on the day of? And then we come on the day of and everyone, it was like all hands on deck. We wanted to make sure everyone who was there really contributed. It was staff, it was the children of staff, it was
Exactly.
patients, it was
Yeah.
faculty, it was everyone, and it ended up being like a really amazing lip syncing video with a few awesome songs. So we'll be sharing that to you guys really soon. It's gonna be, and there's also gonna be a voting phase, hopefully, if we make it
Yes.
past that initial stage, which I'm really hoping we do. But we'll show you guys that and we'll direct you where to vote. It'll be a few different things, but as soon as you guys see this video, I know you'll be so 100% on board for voting because, yeah, I don't know. I honestly, and I don't know how it could have been made better. Like, it's almost the lip syncing is like, it's obviously not the best lip syncing, and that's what makes it 10 times
That's what
better
makes it
because you
better.
know exactly, exactly. Oh my gosh. But, and so we don't know yet for voting, right, Laura? Like, we don't know yet,
Yeah,
but
so I think
yeah.
Teresa just got the info the other day. Basically, I think what Ironstone is doing is they're going to choose, they're in the process of choosing the videos that they're going to be posting, and it'll be a weekly thing. So it sounds like it's going to be a competition. So
Mhm.
basically, they'll be posting 2 videos on their website, and you'll have to go and vote for the best one. So it'll probably be a weekly thing for a few weeks because they're going to pair up 2 videos and do that competition thing. And then the winning video will get, will advance to the next round. So we don't know where we're falling in terms of the sequence of that. But yes, we're really hoping that our video does make it kind of to the final and
Yeah.
hopefully that we're winners anyways, but we're really
Yeah,
hoping that
exactly.
we're going to provide some stiff competition to the other competitors
Yeah,
for sure.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So, guys, just stay tuned because once we share that, I'm gonna need every single person not only
Yes.
viewing this, but their friend, mom, dog,
Everyone.
and everyone associated to vote for the video because you'll see it, and I hope you guys love it just as much as we loved making it. But okay, back to the Right Clinic, the work with Glen Caron. Can we touch on that a little bit, and then I want to ask you some questions about what you think like some current challenges in dentistry are.
Oh, okay, that's a big question. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
So I would say in terms of so our partnership with Glen Caron is probably one of the key ingredients in the success of the clinic. And so
yeah,
when we think from a public health perspective, and when we're trying to think about, social determinants of health, and we understand that, folks that are coming into our clinic, they're coming in because they have, probably challenges, tooth pain, they haven't had access to dentistry for many, many, many years.
yeah,
But we know that they're coming in for that. But oftentimes, because they're experiencing multiple barriers in terms of accessing oral health care, we all know that that comes along with other things, right? So things like housing insecurity, food insecurity. We know of all the social problems, in particular in our particular like location, like being in
of
London,
course,
Ontario. So when we're taking a look at, well, how do we best support folks that are experiencing multiple challenges? We really need to think from a bit more of a holistic kind of and think of the whole person, right? And so that's where we need to really kind of think about, well, do we have system navigation support? What other programs could this person be enrolled in? Do they need some temporary assistance in terms of accessing fresh food? Do they need to apply and support? Do they need support applying for ODSP, the Ontario
Of course.
Disability Support Program. And so that's where the folks at Glen Caron come in. So we have a very close relationship with Glen Caron, of course. And so they're located just kind of downstairs to the clinic. And so what'll end up happening, it's a bi-directional partnership in the sense that if there's folks that come into the clinic or come into Glen Caron, for example, because they have a whole host of amazing programs. And again, for students or anyone who's interested in volunteering, certainly we take volunteers at the clinic, but Glen Caron does as well. So if you like working with youth, if you like cooking, they run amazing programs. They've got one program in particular where they're a hub and they've got a really huge kitchen. So what they'll do is they'll take food that isn't necessarily expired, but it's kind of getting close to
Mhm.
that point. And so what they'll do is they'll take that food and they'll repurpose it, cook it. They'll make tomato sauce, soup, stews, food so that people have access actually to some of these fresh foods. Because when we think about the food bank is a really important part of our community, especially if you're experiencing food insecurity, but you're just going to get canned prepared stuff, right?
Yeah,
What people need is
exactly.
like access to fresh food. And this is where
Yeah.
organizations like Glen Caron can really come in and support folks. And so they do a number of great food programs. They've got a system navigator down there that will actually help our clients and again, work together to help people access different programs. We know that something as basic as filing income tax, right? So if you have
Yeah.
someone that's been unhoused for a number of years, they're not going to be filing income tax. They don't have an
Yeah.
address. And so what we do know is that filing income tax is going to give you access to a whole host of provincial and federal benefits. And so there's also, ways that we can kind of connect people that way so that they can file income tax. So there's a whole host of different programs. And so what ends up
Yeah.
happening in the practical sense is that, for example, if Teresa or any of the staff hear that, maybe this person is struggling in a particular area, she can do what we call a warm handoff and walk that person down to Glen Cairn. Maybe they can chat with either Chelsea or Jazz or any of the folks downstairs, and they'll help connect them with appropriate programs so that they can be kind of better supported in terms of
Yeah.
all of those other pieces, outside of oral health care. So,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah,
so it's an
absolutely.
important part of that. So, having that social work and kind of that piece of things connected with a
Huge.
dental clinic is huge, right? So,
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
just a natural fit for sure.
And for, like, the students in 4th year and 3rd year listening, it's essentially like and I know from what I understand, they definitely work with the Wright Clinic and they come support as well, but, there's this Oxford County Community Health Center.
Yes.
It's a place that I actually got involved with before getting into dental school, or before even being in dental school or considering dentistry, that helped me, like, focus me on it, but I remember thinking, same vibe. It's like a community health center. It's all things like you bring people in the door and you hope they stay for all the other amazing services within
Yes.
the center. But I was like Oxford County Community Health Center, and I love the people there. But Oxford County, it's like an hour drive. I was like, what can we do here? And I honestly did not know the Wright Clinic had a similar involvement with Glencairn. I thought it was just in the same space. But obviously, and now that you're explaining it, it makes 10 times more sense on how many opportunities there are to really go and help out because you don't have to be a licensed clinician at this point to help
No.
out. There's so many different opportunities, it seems like, for you to be able to help out. So any students also in 3rd year and 4th year, like, consider outside of clinic
Volunteering.
time
Can
coming
I do a short
out
little plug
because
for Glen Cairn, actually, Mooney, while we're
yeah,
talking about
yeah,
volunteering and students?
yeah.
So, in terms of Glen Cairn, they run a really amazing program. They're a main center for a program called Toys for Tots. And if you want a
Okay.
really amazing activity as a student or a faculty or anybody where you really want to get into the Christmas spirit and help out, they accept volunteers for the program for Toys for Tots. And what Glen Cairn does is they do it a little bit differently. So, basically, all the donations for toys will come to the Glen Cairn warehouse.
Yeah,
Usually, Chelsea says like maybe the 22nd ish of December. And basically, what they do is they have to organize all the toys. They have to organize them in terms of like age groups and gender and all that kind of stuff. And what they do at Glencairn is really unique because they set up a market
yeah.
where the families that are eligible to participate in Toys for Tots, the parents or caregivers can come in and they actually have a personal shopper. And this is where the volunteers come in and you help that person choose what they want for their own kids.
Oh my
And
gosh.
I haven't had a chance to participate it myself directly, but I know
Yeah,
colleagues who have. And it's a really incredible opportunity. And the only thing that you would have to do is, if you're interested, is just to call up Glen Cairn and say that you're interested. They'll put you on the list. And as soon as the truck comes, you can tell them, like, I can volunteer from 12 to 4 on the
Yeah.
23rd. And basically, Chelsea does her magic over there, and
Yeah.
they'll call you up, and you can actually like help people shop for their kids. And
Oh
it's
my
an
gosh.
amazing feeling. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I can only imagine, and, like, especially during this is kinda I love this season, and I know some people don't like the cold weather, but I love when stuff like this starts happening and all these amazing initiatives are going on and the snow starts
Yeah.
falling, it's the first snowfall, and it's just before the snow gets mushy and gross, and so that's super like, if anybody and I know we like to say we're busy as students, we're never really too busy. Take some time out, it'll mean so much to so many people. I was not aware of that the Toys for Tots. I'm gonna
Yeah.
absolutely look into that myself and hopefully bring or drag whichever one it ends up being some of my friends to hopefully doing something similar. Now, I have a quick question about
Sure.
just like a personal question to be honest, or not a personal question, but like a question for me personally. So, like the critical issues obviously
Mm.
shape shape access to dental care, and I've heard of like the role of the CDCP, the Canadian Dental Care Plan. But I just don't know, like I don't have a real grasp on how it's impacted the communities that I'm hoping to serve so far. So I'm just wondering like what your perspective has been on it, and like if you could change one thing in like how Canada approaches oral health equity, what would it be? Would it be related to the CDCP? Would it be related to something else? Like what are these like how would we tackle these current issues and current like proposed solutions to these social issues?
Yeah, absolutely. So that's a phenomenal question, Mooney. And I guess I don't actually have an answer.
Yeah, yeah,
But certainly when it comes to CDCP, I would say like absolutely. I and many others that are interested in oral health equity commend the Canadian government because this is
yeah,
the biggest investment in oral health care since
yeah,
ever in our
ever, yeah,
history, right? So
yeah,
potentially, this particular program will provide access to up to 9 million Canadians
mhm,
to finally have access to publicly funded dental insurance. It's a dental insurance plan. It's not a public health
yeah,
program to then access dental care at a dental office that does accept
mhm,
CDCP. So, in terms of the rollout of CDCP, I know there, certainly some criticisms with it, but really at the end of the day, it's the uptake has been exceptionally good across Canada, right?
mhm,
And so, even driving around our community, we see signs everywhere now accepting CDCP, which is
yeah,
makes me smile because
yeah,
that really means that dental providers are really taking up the call and
yeah,
really providing access to care that way. So I think that's a
yeah,
really wonderful thing. With CDCP, of course, there's always going to be challenges. And, talking with, as the program rolled out with some of the Health Canada folks that worked incredibly hard to roll out this program in a very, very short period of time. Because, again, of course, that coalition with the NDP and the Liberal government, they were propped, and the NDP basically told the Liberal government that we will only support you if you support pharmacare and if you
yeah,
support this dental plan, right? So the fact that they were able to get this up and going in such a short amount of time to me is
amazing,
just amazing.
yeah,
And so when we think about CDCP and how it has the potential to really help in terms of oral health equity, is that, we know from the Canadian Health Measures Survey that the number one reason why people don't access dental care is the cost, right?
yeah,
We've got a publicly funded medical system, and then we've got a privately funded dental care system, and the two do not connect. They don't
yeah,
meet. They're completely
yeah,
separate, right? And then your own vice dean and director of the dental school, Dr. Carlos Quinones, has a really wonderful article that explains the historical kind of
yeah,
concept of
yeah,
why that is, right?
yeah,
And so when we think about CDCP, it does have an incredible potential in terms of oral health equity. And so certainly when we see the folks that we support at the Wright Clinic, the fact that we have CDCP and they do have coverage for procedures, right, that they would have had to pay out of pocket before.
yeah, otherwise, yeah,
Otherwise, right? And we all know
yeah,
how expensive dentistry is, between the materials and the staffing and the equipment. It's incredible, right? So that will come a long way in terms of addressing those needs. Now,
yeah,
some of the areas of opportunity though, certainly is my concern, and this has been brought up with Health Canada as,
mhm,
the administrator, or well, Sun Life's the administrator, but Health Canada in particular, is the lack of preventive scaling units is a big issue. According to the CDCP fee grid, um,
yeah,
folks are only able to access one recare in a 12-month rolling period and four units of scaling. So that's,
Yeah.
debridement. So if you think about someone that, let's say, hasn't had access for 10 or more years, that's only an
Yeah.
hour of scaling. And so for an experienced clinician, we may only get like 6 teeth or a sextant done, right?
Yeah.
So then
Yeah.
what do we do about the rest of the mouth? Now,
Yeah.
the nice thing is that's where, the dental school and Fanshawe's oral health clinic can really
Yeah.
come in and to address that need
Yeah.
in the community. But, taking a look at really focusing on prevention, I think is going to be a really main thing to help people, not just, yes, we need to take a care look at kind of the critical issues, but how do we maintain and promote oral health long term with the population? So
Yeah.
that would be one piece. And another piece, and I'm going to lean on my CSDH colleagues
Yeah.
because there's been a number of different conversations that my colleagues at CSDH have had. One regarding data collection,
Mhm.
because having accurate data in terms of what's actually happening with the administration of the program, who's accessing what, different characteristics of those folks. So having accurate data from StatsCan is going to inform good decision making because we have to have good
100%.
data to make good policy decisions, right?
Yeah.
And then the other piece of it that particular group has been very persistent is the challenges working with persons with disabilities,
Yeah.
and definitely making sure that those folks have not just access to dental insurance, but that there's some way of remunerating dental providers for the extra time that's often
Yeah.
required if you're taking a
Yeah.
look at working with someone, let's say, for instance, that has a really significant disability and maybe is
Yeah.
nonverbal and
Yeah.
really requires that extra time and extra care. Because right now, the way that the fee grid works is that if you require some of that extra time, and it even could be someone with even dental anxiety. So, for
Yeah.
example, at our clinic, I'll give you an example. Dr. Ali shared, we had a client that came in and she had such extreme dental anxiety that it
Yeah.
took 5 visits, 5 different times over several years for her
Wow.
actually to sit in the chair, to have that connection with Dr. Ali, to trust him
Yeah.
enough that they were actually able to proceed with the care that she needed that day. So the previous visits where she would just come in, she would sit in the chair and it was just too much for her and she would have to
Yeah.
leave, right?
Yeah.
And so when we think about being able to support all folks, there does need to be some kind of acknowledgement that even though maybe dental treatment's not being done, this is a we're helping that person. We're
Yeah.
providing that
Yeah.
care and that time and that understanding for
Yeah.
them to get comfortable in the dental chair.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Absolutely.
that would be an area of opportunity that perhaps I would hope that we would take a look at. And the same thing for
Yeah.
independent dental hygienists, for example, working in a long-term
Yeah.
care setting, with that extra time that we need to get that person maybe from their room to wherever we're providing care.
Yeah.
And so taking a look at kind of outside of the box as opposed to
Yeah.
just the regular like ODA fee codes or CDA fee codes, that there's other ways that we're providing care.
Yeah, absolutely. And I want to talk about, and I can't emphasize those things enough or second them enough, but I also want to talk about some other areas of opportunity, not specifically with the CDCP, but there's this other there's something that we're definitely exposed to as dental students. And it's something that it's been looming in my mind, especially with Interprofessional Day coming up, where we're going to
Yes.
collaborate with the hygiene students. But in general, I've heard that a lot about staffing shortages, burnout. And so thinking back to your time in private practice, and I know we're kind of
Yeah.
jumping back here, but I just want to know, like personally, like what makes a great dentist or leader? What made you love your dentist who was owned that practice? And uplift their team because I want to be I want to be that dentist. I want to be somebody who's able to retain their staff, and as someone also who's taught all the future hygienists that are going to be like serving this community. What advice would you give to dentists, dental students on how to better collaborate with their hygiene, assisting staff, etc., just to make
Well,
that
that's a
environment so
great
nice?
yeah, that's a great question, Mooney. And so I would say, like, that respect for interprofessionalism, I think, is a really
Yeah,
key piece of it. So, of course, in the workshop that we're going to be having in a few weeks with Dr. Steele,
yeah,
really kind of understanding the role of each profession. And so we think about dentistry as like an umbrella, but really having that understanding that dentistry and dental hygiene are actually two distinct professions. In dental hygiene, we're self-regulated. We have our own regulatory college. We have our scope of practice, which again overlaps with dentistry. But really respecting your dental hygiene, team as an important part of the team and really relying on their expertise. We do 3 years, right, of
Yeah.
dental hygiene care and
Yeah.
periodontics and all of those things, and really kind of supporting your team. I would say also too in terms of professional development. I think those are really nice opportunities that all dental hygienists would and members, dental assistants really respect and appreciate. And yeah, and just approaching everybody from a team-based collaborative environment, right? We all want to work in an environment where everybody works together and we uplift
Yes.
each other. And we have
Yeah.
that common goal, right? Of
Yeah.
optimal client care. So I think approaching all of your team members and your staff as an important part of the team, I think is
Yeah.
really, it's common sense stuff, but
Absolutely.
you know, making sure that everyone feels supported and
Yeah.
improving like the culture, right? So
Yeah.
culture I
Yeah.
think is a really important part of any work environment. So do you have opportunities to connect with one another outside of work?
Yeah.
Maybe in a professional way, but connecting with others and making sure that everybody has, I guess, what they need in order to
Yeah.
succeed.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Now, by the way, Laura, you have absolutely knocked it out of the park. I have just a few more, but and
Sure.
I don't know if you've done any like you're better at podcasting at this point than me, so I don't know if you've done
Well, I
any
was so
podcasts. This is your
nervous
first
this morning.
podcast.
I was so nervous
You
this
have
morning.
killed it. Yeah, no, you've done amazing.
Thank
You've
you.
made my job a lot easier because honestly, my only goal with this is to come here, sit and learn. And I think everyone who's going to listen to this podcast is going to learn so much more about public health, about the Wright Clinic, about all these different organizations, and it's gonna be for the like a lot for the better. So, but I have some quick fire
Sure.
like questions now just to end this off. So I have about 4 questions, and I know it's hard. I hate getting asked these types of questions and being like, okay, 1 to 2 sentence answer because I'm the guy who never struggled with word limit in that I was always over.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so these are just quick fire round, and I know take your time, but it's just 4 questions, and like the first thing that comes to mind, 2 sentence, 3 sentences, and obviously, honestly, if I'm probably gonna want more elaboration anyway, but anyways, and we'll end off the
Okay.
podcast with that. So the first one is your favorite thing about teaching.
Well, my favorite thing about teaching,
Yeah.
well, there's my students.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that
Obviously,
was
that's an
easy.
easy
Yeah.
one because I
Yeah.
have the best
Yeah.
students, and
Yeah.
they are my favorite thing. So I had a class on Thursday, and I'm going to shout
Yeah.
out to my second-year students. So I teach this
Yeah.
research methods course, and we know that like maybe research isn't always in dental
Yeah.
hygiene anyways, their favorite
Yeah. Yeah.
topic, and I try
Yeah.
really hard to make it fun.
Yeah.
But I just had so many good questions. We were just talking basics about sampling or something like that. And
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
the questions that my students have. And one of
Yeah.
them, now Russ, he stumped me on one, so I have to get back to him. But just,
Okay. Yeah.
having that ability to constantly learn, right? And
Yeah.
and the
Yeah.
students are what really makes it so much fun.
Yeah, awesome, awesome. Okay, now, like, building off of that, hygiene in general, what is one myth about dental hygiene you'd love to bust?
There's so many that we just clean. There's
Yeah,
nothing that kind of
yeah,
irritates me more because dental hygiene, we are like the oral health. We promote
the
oral health in
quarterbacks, it
so
feels like.
many different ways, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah,
so, in terms of what we do as dental hygienists, we like, smoking cessation,
yeah,
nutritional counseling, connecting people maybe with like a social worker or other programs.
yeah,
And so when we're taking a look at like our model is
yeah,
very kind of tied to nursing in some ways, right? We use the
yeah,
same process of care. And so we're really taking a look at the whole health of that person. So we're
yeah,
not just taking a look at the mouth, but the
yeah,
person connected with the mouth. And that, our job is to motivate and provide people with the tools
yeah,
to enable their health. So
yeah,
oral health education,
yeah,
and I love like motivational interviewing and smoking cessation. That's also a
yeah,
fun thing that I love doing and teaching. So, I tell my students that, I can scale all day, every day, but until that
yeah,
person has the tools and the knowledge and the motivation to look after their own oral health, right? There's not a
it's
whole
not
lot that I'm helping
yeah,
with, right?
yeah,
So
yeah,
being able to recognize too when, when clients need referrals and all of
yeah,
those things that,
yeah,
so the biggest myth I would say is that we just clean teeth.
yeah,
And that's not
absolutely,
what we do. That's actually a
yeah,
smaller part of
yeah,
a bigger picture for sure.
and I remember, like, when I first heard something of that nature, and I was like, I've never first of all, when my dental practice that I grew up going to, before I ever knew I wanted to do dentistry,
Yeah.
I always thought the hygienist was the dentist.
Oh, yeah.
like, there's a saying that my family goes by 100%, and it's because we're all like, we all love my mom. It's behind every great man is an even better mom or woman, and
Yeah.
I think behind every dentist is an even greater hygienist because they're literally like the dentist will come in at the end of whatever appointment is, and the hygienist, it seems like the hygienist is the boss, to be honest, at the clinic that I go to. So I always, and I was like, "You're really the boss around here, right?" And they're like, "We are the boss." Yeah, and so I like that whole, like it's 100. I've never even fallen into that because my personal dental practice has never even fit that vibe, and people will recognize for themselves if they really look at the signs that are in front of them. But yeah, okay, most rewarding moment at the Wright Clinic.
I would say the video. I know that's an easy
Really?
one. I would just say
Yeah,
being a part of that video, Mooney, and
yeah,
seeing everybody come together for
yeah,
one day, like our staff, the dentists from our community,
yeah,
students. That was
yeah,
honestly one of our clients, Cassie, like seeing everybody come together as a
yeah,
team to do this amazing project in support of the clinic, I think is probably the most rewarding thing that I've ever participated in
yeah, yeah,
at the clinic or even affiliated with the clinic. So I think
yeah.
it's a real testament that the clinic, we're not just a dental clinic. We're
No,
a place, like a hub for, so many different things.
yeah,
And it's a place for people to come together. And I think
yeah,
that at the end of the day, that's really what makes the clinic and all of the work that Dr. Wright and the rest of
yeah,
us have done over the years is like that's what
yeah,
we really wanted. We wanted it to
yeah,
be a home, of course, for folks that maybe didn't have anywhere else to go. But the fact that we can get members of their community together and our students together and to learn together to do something really incredible, that
yeah.
for sure is the highlight, for sure.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, and honestly, regardless of the outcome, although we're 100%
We're
looking
going
to
to win.
win, we honestly, that felt like, I remember talking to Ethan, as we were leaving, we were like, "Man, that felt like a win in itself."
Yeah.
And we were like
Yeah,
exhausted
for
at that point.
sure.
We're like, "We really did that. We
It was
had
a
a lot
long
of
day,
fun."
right?
Yes,
It was a
exactly.
really long day for you guys.
Yeah. Okay. And last question before we close it off: if you weren't in dentistry, what would you be doing?
Sometimes I do think about that. If
Yeah.
it wasn't in dentistry, what would I be doing? I'd probably be
And
in
I have
another health
somewhat of an idea.
profession, which is like,
Yeah.
not
And what are you
not
thinking?
a
Like,
very exciting thing. Well, because I was
yeah.
deciding between nursing and dental hygiene, and my best friend, of
No
course,
way.
she decided to be a nurse, and then
Yeah.
and then we were back at school at the same time, both as mature students. So she did nursing, and
Yeah.
then I did dental hygiene, and
Yeah.
it just so happened that it all ended up working out. But there's so
Yeah.
many other amazing professions. So when I was
Yeah.
working at the health unit, there's, working with, the nursing staff and working with dietitians. I think speech language pathology is a fascinating profession.
Yeah.
And, that's one that I was never even exposed to until I became a
Mm,
dental hygienist. And I'm like,
yeah.
wow, there's this whole profession that deals with the
Yeah.
mouth and all of these
Yeah.
different things. So probably maybe something like that.
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. Awesome. Thank you so much, Laura.
Well,
That's our
thank
wrap
you,
for
Mooney.
today's
Yeah.
episode.
And thank you so much for this podcast and this
Yeah.
opportunity because
Yeah.
it's really great to share some of the work that the clinic is doing and our
Yeah.
amazing staff and all the
Yeah.
members of the board that put in an amazing amount of effort over and over
Yeah.
again
Yeah.
for, again, the betterment of the community, students, clients, everybody.
Yeah, and no, we should be thanking you because honestly, these are amazing, like, initiatives in their own. So just putting a small spotlight on what you guys already do. You guys have done the work. Now you're just sharing about it, and honestly, like, I can't speak more to how impactful it really is. Huge shout out to Laura for joining and sharing her story. Make
Thank
sure to
you.
check out the Right Clinic, all the amazing work happening at Fanshawe College and the London Community Dental Alliance. But yeah, that's it for today, guys. If you enjoyed this one, hit follow wherever you're listening, drop a quick rating, share it with someone who you'd love for it to hear or learn about the Right Clinic. And once again, you can always keep up with me on Instagram or TikTok. And if there's any guest or topic you'd love to hear on the show, including maybe Dr. Olaf and how that part of the
Yes.
video went, shoot me a message, guys. Until next time, stay curious, stay kind, and keep the conversation going. Bye, Laura. Thank you so
Thank you
much.
so much, Mooney. Take care.